and the first release with the WNBA will be in October, and that's actually this size, and these will be blind boxes. We're not ready to announce it all yet, but there's a tease of Caitlin Clark.
Look at that.
I can cover the face a little bit. But this will operate exactly like trading cards. So there'll be a base set, and then there'll be rare versions that have. I have like all these samples here. They have like a gold crown that's numbered to 10, and a chrome that's numbered to 5, and a 1 of 1s. I mean, it'll be operated exactly the same way that trading cards are operated. So we expect that the trading card breakers and the breakers for collectible toy industry will all be opening them, trying to find the rare Caitlin Clark 1 of 1 rookie ghost.
Jameel Muhammad and Jeff Cardozo dive into the hobby, which is sports cards, trading cards, as well as all other collectibles, right now on the Meelypod Hobby Podcast, live from the Coach's Podcast Room at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill.
All right, it is that time again. It is the Meelypod Hobby Podcast, episode 16. Getting up there, and excited to be back with you live from the Meldon Law Studios. Meldon Law, we won't back down. We're, of course, at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill in Celebration Point in Gainesville in the podcast room. Jeff Cardozo, Jameel Muhammad with you, and got a snazzy little prop here that we'll talk about at some point. Great guest today, Josh Luber, who was in the shoe world back in the day, now in the toy world. He's been in the card world, but he is an influential guy that has done so many things and hung out with some really cool people, and might even have some really cool cards to bring up. But we'll talk about all that and so much more. But, Jameel, I guess we got to talk football because obviously, at least from a collegiate level, Florida State, Florida, not doing too good. People down south are doing okay with the Hurricanes. And then, obviously, a lot of NFL news, injuries happening, which I think will certainly affect this hobby and the card world as we move forward.
Yeah, I mean, it's our Sweet 16 episode today, but not so sweet for people who have Bryce Young investments. Not so sweet for people who have been high on some of these guys. Levis is another guy too that Coach came at him, so maybe a lot of fire under Levis. We'll see.
The dude puts mayonnaise in his coffee, so there's no way he would have been successful.
That Kentucky world up there, those blue bloods, so doing things differently. But with football, you look at where we're at right now. I think it shows in our country, in the world, how encapsulating the weekends are for football. I mean, we talk from a media standpoint. You can talk about it from a collectible standpoint. You can talk about it from a standpoint in which just a fandom. You can talk about even the demographic of girls now watching football to see Taylor Swift, shots, when she's excited for Travis Kelce. So, and now she's becoming, a Chiefs fan, So, like, all these things you think about with football, it's really, I think, taking it to the next level. And, of course, fantasy, I know on your teams you have you've drafted some Christian McCaffrey. So how you feeling? You doing okay?
It's a little rough. I think just everybody was duped by that one. I think the beat writer should have done a better job there in San Francisco. And then maybe if you had the one pick, you wouldn't have taken McCaffrey. Although then you'd probably taken Tyreek, and he sucks because no Tua right now.
Yeah.
So, a lot of stuff has changed. Cooper Kupp hurt, Nakua's hurt, all these early round guys. And, I think that's what's so fascinating about all this kind of stuff. And then you mentioned Kelce. He's been non-existent for 2 weeks.
Right.
The bigger guy might be his brother who just retired, who's all over the broadcast.
He's
now
everywhere.
Doing everything.
Yeah. He had a cool broadcast with Jalen Hurts I saw the other day, and they were talking about how much they loved each other and bro love, and it was pretty cool seeing. But yeah, it doesn't just happen every year in football. Like, I think where you have all these expectations and preconceived notions of what's going to happen.
Sure.
And about a third of that actually happens. Stroud being one for me. The Houston Texans, people thought they were going to look good, and they look amazing, playing well. That Bears game was a field goal game kind of thing. But again, they're 2-0. Not flying way under the radar, the Tampa Bay Bucks. You know what I mean? 2-0, looking pretty dominant.
Baker's revived his career, and those early Cleveland Browns cards might doing so.
2018 rookie class. So who would ever have thought that Baker Mayfield stuff? Baker Mayfield. This is a stretch here. It's a hot take. Could make a Super Bowl before Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson from that class. I know, man. And how about this? Sam Darnold, 2018 as well, looking amazing. He's another guy that you look at as nobody was buying his cards. JJ McCarthy's coming in, and if you had invested in some Sam Darnold stuff, you would have got it dirt cheap even a week before the season, or actually probably the day before the announcement of the knee injury, because he started threshold up. But to see him throw that bomb to Justin Jefferson this week, and you think, Maybe this is his time, his coming out party.
Yeah, something to it. And I find it fascinating too, because you mentioned fantasy, and I think everybody probably listening at least has one fantasy team out there. You're doing something, but it's almost like if we're sitting here wanting to trade guys in the fantasy world, it's maybe similar in the card world as well, because it's like, hey, can I go get a Jalen Waddle now on cheap because Tua's hurt? And does that mean he's going to get less because then Tyreek's getting less and you don't really have a quarterback? But, maybe now is it the time to buy on the cheap? Because if you still believe in these individuals, then they might help you for a fantasy playoff run, or obviously might help you in investment a couple years down the road.
I think it's, you think about, I always think about football in two ways. And anybody listening, you think about quarterbacks in their own kind of world, very volatile. But then you think about the position players, so wide receivers, running backs, maybe some defensive players. And I think of things like, you talk about Nakua and Kupp. Wow, these are guys that cards, people were super high on Nakua in the offseason. But then you look at someone like a Quentin Johnson or, some of these guys that are coming out of nowhere.
I saw you swiped him, by the way.
Maybe I'll throw that out there.
It's a former first rounder.
Jameson Williams, right? He's a guy in the Lions. Like these guys that were high draft picks have some really unique cards like Downtowns and Kabooms and really nice cards, but weren't really worth that much. And now they might, come to some really precedent levels where people are going to want that stuff. So being on that cusp, there are people who are on the Bryce Young train, buy it now when he's 25% worth what he is and hold it for 2 years. Yeah. There's elements of that you can get into, but I think that's a little bit riskier, than you think.
Yeah, because if you'd have done that on some guy who was a Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback that has amounted to nothing, then that would have evolved into nothing. So yeah, you never know. But what I do want to know about is Rip Night. I know we talked about that last week. You had both shops getting after it for Topps. So how did it go?
It was great. So Topps Hobby Rip Night, for people listening and watching, is an event that Topps puts on with about 500 card shops across the world, really. And it's the same exact day. And it's an encouragement to really just kind of blow up social media, bring a lot of attention to the fun that can be had in hobby shops. And then something that Topps does, they can't do it for everyone in the shops, but they'll send athletes to certain shops. Yeah. We actually had an athlete. He canceled last minute, so it's okay. We still had an amazing time here in Gainesville. But there are things that you can do in that night where you can discount products, make it about the community, make it about the hobby more so, right? Where you're really pushing it. And our goal was just to see people opening packs and having fun. I gave every hour just giving packs away to kids in the shop. Awesome. Our South Carolina shop, there was a volleyball tournament going on at the same time. So there was like 1,000, 2,000 people in the facility. And then we had our Rip Night. So there was all this commotion and people just everywhere. What the heck's going on over there? So these kinds of things are only accentuating. They're only, growing the hobby. The awareness that people have to what baseball cards are, basketball cards, football cards, to what Pokemon and Star Wars cards are now, and then the fact that there's value to this that's associated with it. I'm sure we'll see some big cards with Josh Luber here in a few moments. He's a guy who even at the highest levels of business and entrepreneurship is a hobbyist at heart and has bought a lot of those cards, and you wouldn't believe some of the prices he has on some of these amazing cards he showed me. I told him to bring some on, so we'll see if he has some here for our interview. But I just think Topps Hobby Rip Night is an event that now is twice a year, and it's getting people excited about the hobby. It's getting kids looking forward to the event. It's making people think, oh, will there be somebody in our state that I could drive to and go to that hobby shop? And I was thinking about it today, like if I didn't have somebody, but somebody in Jacksonville did, or somebody in Orlando did, I would probably encourage people like, hey, go check out that shop. Like it should be about that camaraderie and being excited for other people to have wins as well. And you do see that amongst a lot of the card shop owners. Some you don't. Some are knuckleheads, and but a lot of them are good, awesome people.
Were any radical rips out there? Like anything that big that anybody got?
Yeah, so there were a lot of people bought a lot of the deals and took them home, and I started getting pictures in of all these Chrome prospects people were getting, and big hits out of the blasters, and in the free packs, people getting autograph card, real one autographs of Heritage, and just really good rookies. So there was a lot. You put me on the spot there. I can't think of some off the top of my head, but we had a guy the night before open up a product called Motif Football. I talked about one of the high-end football products, and we'll put this up on screen, but it was a Tom Brady autograph that we pulled 1 of 10.
Wow.
So he came to Rip Night to pick it up, and his whole family came with him, so they were taking pictures with his card, and he's posting it on Facebook. And I think that's the world we live in now. Like, it's not so much more just I can be excited. My family can get excited. I can share it on social media. I can tell people about this card. And it's a beautiful Tom Brady card. Card is immaculate looking. And that was just kind of a fun moment there. And then when he picked it up, Jeff, people in shop want, oh, what's that? And so then he opened another box or two of motif in the shop, and people are crowded around. He pulled a Don Shula 101 cut autograph, and it was just fun, that excitement that is, what is found in the hobby shop.
Yeah, well, awesome. All right, we're going to have a lot of fun with Josh Luber. Again, make sure you stay tuned for this. You won't want to miss it. His interview is next on the Meelypod Hobby Podcast. Things have certainly got a little out of hand lately when it comes to just buying our everyday necessities. Just look at gas, streaming services, and heck, even chicken wings. Well, there is one necessity that shouldn't cost a ton: taking care of yourself and helping fix all the aches and pains in life. And the fine folks at Titan MRI agree. With costs a fraction of what you'd pay at a hospital, you'll not only save money, you'll be taken care of by staff with over 20 years experience. So when you need an MRI, call Titan first, and you can go where your doctors send their families. Now offering CAT scans.
Meldon Law has been serving personal injury victims since 1971. In those days, Jeffrey Meldon's presence as an attorney in the music scene dubbed him with the nickname the Hippie Attorney. And although times have changed, two things haven't: our commitment to bettering our community by helping the injured,
Albert, are you ready to go to the game?
and our love for the Florida Gators.
If you bleed orange and blue, Meldon Law is the firm for you.
All right, we welcome you back. Jeff and Jameel still inside Spurrier's restaurant, the podcast room where we are enjoying things. And we got a very enjoyable guest for you. I'm fascinated to talk to Josh Luber here, as Jameel has told me a lot of different things from, the old school back in the days of kind of like, I feel like he was like I was. We all wanted Jordans, nobody could afford it. And you hear the great stories to the cards that aren't worth anything anymore. Now he's got a gazillion cards. But Jameel, this should be a lot of fun. I know you've known Josh for a while. Yeah,
he's been just a good friend in the hobby. I think you meet people in this hobby and collectibles, in the world of collectibles, that you recognize are genuine, and it's always good to talk with those people. And then, of course, Josh just so happens to have done some big things with sneakers, sports cards, and now with collectible toys. So I think he's on the virtual. I'm excited to have this chat with him. Josh, you there?
I am here. It's good to see you guys.
Yeah, man. Welcome to the podcast. Last time I saw you was in Cleveland at the Sports Card National. So before we get into all the fun stuff today, I got to know a little bit about what you might have picked up from the National. And you're always chasing somebody, and we'll get to some of those cards later. But who are you going after right now? Who's Josh Luber hunting in cards?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for having me, and thank you very much for the respite at the National, where you and your wife gave me a seat and offered some food and let me relax for a little bit. When we a couple years ago, when we created the booth for Zero Cool, there was one requirement. I was like, I want a big bleachers. I just want a lot of room for people to sit down, because it's the one thing at the National people just need to take a load off and relax. So I was just searching for a seat really at the National. I did buy some more interesting things. Fortunately, he gave me the seat for free. I still buy cards every day. I'm on, eBay and on the auctions every day. I thought it was, interesting as you try to pull out some cards and what we're going to talk about. So the one big card I bought at the National was this, which was a Mays 52 Bowman PSA 8. I've for some reason, when I was a kid, back in the 80s and 90s, I collected all the same junk wax era of everything, and I had Griffey's and Jerome Walton's. This was I also collected Willie Mays, and this was the card that was actually my bar mitzvah present from my parents, which was a 52 Topps Mays that many years later I graded, and I graded a 5, which was pretty great. Yeah. The card from 1991, I graded a 5. So I've been collecting Mays for a while, and then recently I've been trying to level up and getting as many PSA 8s and PSA 9s as possible. And so about 6-7 months ago, oh, wow. I picked this up. Which was, obviously a 52 Topps 8. And anyway, so this was the big pickup from the National. Was the 52 Bowman 8. So
it's a nicely centered copy too. I can, it's always fun trying to show the cards off in camera. Maybe we'll get a picture and we'll superimpose it over your face. But that thing is sick. That's a really nicely centered copy.
That card is much prettier than my face. So feel free to do whatever you need to do on that one. But yeah, I'm always buying all sorts of stuff, but right now that's certainly the focus, and a lot more money goes in that direction than other places. So it's fun to chase grails like that.
Well, speaking of pretty, Josh, I've got a shoe here I want to ask you about here in just a few minutes. But I'm fascinated to see the start and just the hustle and everything that went on. I'm a '80s, '90s kid, just like you are, and my kids absolutely love shoes now. I never really got into it, but I think a lot of credit goes back to you and your prior team at StockX. So, like when we talk about sneakers in the industry, like how much room is there for just the continued growth in that place?
Well, it's interesting that it's interesting having grown up with sneakers, and then obviously having started StockX, and then seeing the evolution of the sneaker industry over the last, say, decade. 2011, 2012 is kind of the sneaker industry as we know it today has really started to grow. There's like cards, like any market, it goes up and down a little bit, but we had this massive run post-pandemic, like cards, like everything else. And then, like many consumer goods right now, and collectibles, we're kind of in a lull. But sneakers as a whole, you still have Nike and Adidas, and you have this massive retail industry which drives the resale market and the collector market. There was a moment where we were trying to quantify how large the resale sneaker market was right when we started StockX, and we figured out that it was maybe about $1 billion. Over the next couple of years, maybe that grows 3, 4, 5x, whatever, 4 or 5 billion, somewhere in that range. Doesn't matter. The retail sneaker market is 100 billion or more, right? When you look at the global sneaker market across, and fundamentally, these two markets are converging, and this is the same way. And just think about how trading cards, there are no resale and retail. It's just sort of you have this one market, and I think we're seeing this across a lot of collectible markets where these things just become one market. So what's the potential? I mean, people aren't going to stop wearing sneakers. On the flip side of that, at some point, how many Air Jordans can someone buy? You do have issues with the fact that Kanye leaving Adidas and everything that's happened there. So, it kind of cuts both ways, but I mean, I'm not selling all my sneakers. They're in another room, by the way, for the viewers. This is, it's hard to put sneakers back here as well. So.
Yeah, I bet. I brought one sneaker just to maybe ask you a little bit about it. So I'm fortunate enough, I broadcast all the University of Florida sports, and Gator Baseball, they did this little Air Force One, and they threw the Gator logo on it and some blue alligator skin looking thing there. But, I think a school like this, and I mean these were just for the players, so it's kind of cool. So maybe I should keep it and not wear it. But like Florida's there's only a handful of Jordan schools now. Michigan, North Carolina. So for the people here locally, if they're able to get like some of these Jordans that are Gator branded or North Carolina branded, Michigan, whatever it might, like what is the value of those? How impactful is something like that?
Yeah, there's a pretty big market for those type of what we call player exclusives. And like anything, it's supply and demand, and who are they made for, how many exist, how are they distributed, what's going on. But there was a moment where Jordan Brand was making select Air Jordans for teams. So, and it would usually start with North Carolina, but then other Jordan Brand schools like Michigan would have those. And sometimes those can be 5 figures, sometimes even 6 figures. But it all really just depends on the shoe and where it's distributed and how people are getting it. But you guys get it. It's like anything. It's when you have these super rare products, and particularly if they're Air Jordans, well, they can get pretty expensive.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, I don't know if I told you, Josh, we had a Zion. We had picked up a collection from Zion a long time ago. They were actually throwing away all of his shoes. They were cleaning out one of the houses, and a buddy called me up, and there were 3 PEs in it. And we recently, it was 3 weeks ago, he was at our South Carolina shop. He's doing a camp, and we got him to sign 3 of the pairs. So I have the all that Sports Investor, all the Providence stuff from that, the PE side of it, and then now they're signed. So there's a world of that with collecting that I think people are starting to learn about. And Jeff, you got some sick ones right here. So
yeah,
keep them fresh in the box. No creases.
No crease.
No crease, please.
That's what my kids say.
That's what they say. So Josh, going from one collectible to another, first off, congratulations on what you've done with Ghostwrite. I mean, for people who are tuning in and catching this you are entering into this collectible toy space. And if I've butchered that anyway, let me know if you've categorized it a little differently. But the collectible toy space to me, and I look at that and I think, man, like, you know, we got a guy now who's transcended from shoes to cards and now in toys. So it's exciting to think, you know, where we're going to be in the future with this. So maybe let listeners know just a little bit about what Ghostwrite is, where we're going, and some things to look out for.
Yeah, so I mean, thank you for the sort of opportunity to talk about this and the kind words. Look, all this stuff is the same. Trading cards, sneakers, collectible toys. You know, it's all supply and demand, collectors, resale value, you know, what are long-term true collectibles that people put real, you know, value and importance to. And, you know, for us, we created this brand, which is called Ghostwrite. Ghostwrite is what we call a blank canvas collectible toy. And the best example of this for those that who know about it is what's called Bear Bricks.
Yeah.
Bear Bricks have been the longest running, most successful collectible toy franchise forever. And the reason why is because Bear Brick is just a shape. You know, all their collectible toys, it's IP, it's characters, it's Spider-Man, it's Cause, Astro Boy. But this is just a human body with a bear head. And so you could put Spider-Man on this, or in this case, this is just a random design. And so Bear Brick, which is made by a Japanese company called Medicom, they've been doing this for 25 years. And to have this blank canvas, you can create anything on, and it gives you the opportunity to work with all the most important brands and culture, all the most important artists and companies. And so that's very much what we've done is taken Bear Brick and expanded on that. Our company, which is called Ghostwrite, we mentioned, it's a kid with a crown. We call this a ghost. Ghost, like a Bear Brick, there's no face, there's no gender. It is not a character in and of itself. It's meant to be a skin, and you can see a lot of them behind me. But you know, for example, this is Tyrone Biggums from the Chappelle Show, right? You know, so or this is a friends and family release we did a while ago, which is just a pencil, right? It can be anything. Right now, I think if my timing is right, as this is going live on Thursday. We're in the middle of a release with Eastside Golf, which is a golf apparel brand, and this is their mascot that we've turned into a ghost. This was actually used for their golf tournament on Monday, where there was puck on the bottom, and these were the tee box markers, and then we're actually selling them as well. But so we're in the middle of a release right now for Eastside Golf. So the idea is that ghosts can be anything. And the idea of Ghostwrite, the ethos being that these are toys that tell other people's stories. So, you know, we say ghosts tell stories. Here's a last show and tell. This is the packaging from the first release we did, which was a Ghostwrite branded ghost. But I show the packaging because every aspect of this is meant to just operate exactly the way that trading cards have operated, which is to say that we know that it's important to keep products sealed in their original packaging. So we had to have packaging that was clear so you could keep it sealed, but also display it. And by the way, we have a partnership with AFA to have ghosts graded if people want to have them graded the same way that trading cards obviously were transformed by grading. So for me, this is a blast. We get to make toys, but this is very much a continuation of all the work at StockX, at Fanatics Collectibles, because all these products are very similar. And so the last thing I'll say about this is, you know, most of the ghosts are this size, which is 11 inches. The really interesting thing will happen when we start working with the leagues, and we have licenses with the NBA, with the WNBA, with Major League Baseball, and the first release with the WNBA will be in October, and that's actually, you know, this size, and these will be blind boxes. We're not ready to announce it all yet, but there's a tease of Caitlin Clark.
Look at that.
I can cover the face a little bit. But, you know, this will operate exactly like trading cards. So there'll be a base set, and then there'll be rare versions that have, I've like all these samples here. They have like a gold crown that's numbered to 10, and a chrome that's numbered to 5, and a 1 of 1s. I mean, it'll be operated exactly the same way that trading cards are operated. So we expect that the trading card breakers and the breakers for collectible toy industry will all be opening them, trying to find the rare Caitlin Clark 1 of 1 rookie ghost, an Angel Reese 1 of 1 rookie ghost. And so, like I said, all we've done is just take everything that we've learned about trading cards and sneakers and apply it to collectible toys, which again, these are all the same idea that you guys understand very well. So it's a blast to be able to do this and talk about it, and it's just the beginning for it. So.
And it's amazing. I ran a golf course for 20 years, so just the tee marker idea is phenomenal there. And I think that would easily go, and especially you get it for themed of some of these major league guys or NFL guys or something. I think it's awesome. And I guess it makes my head spin a little bit, because again, it goes back to those 80s, 90s when we're collecting He-Man and Star Wars and doing all that kind of stuff. Is it evolved to maybe like the action figure stuff is now turned into these figurines like what you have with Ghostwrite and Bareback, or is that like a completely different category, you think?
Well, no, I mean, it's a really good point, right? Again, all this stuff is the same. So I have all sorts of fun stuff to share. So this is G.I. Joe from 1982, Series 1, that is graded by AFA, which is the primary grading company for vintage toys. They do He-Man and Star Wars and Transformers and G.I. Joe. And so, very much like, we have vintage trading cards, and now we have, all the new cards today. Same thing for collectible toys. With Ghostwrite, we actually have a partnership with AFA, which is the company that grades the vintage toys, to start grading ghosts. So, I mean, again, this is all connected. And, as collectors, we don't necessarily distinguish. As you know, a lot of the stuff we have is new. Some of the stuff is vintage, and, and everything in between. So as a personal collector, I've been actually focused very much on G.I. Joe for the past couple of years. Star Wars is a bit unwieldy. It sort of goes on forever, but G.I. Joe's got a very discrete world. And so we just want to tap into that and take the things we've learned for, how AFA has changed the value for G.I. Joe and Transformers, and apply that to Ghostwrite as we move forward.
Graded Ghostwrites are coming. Blind box Ghostwrites are coming. I can just foreseeing this whole this ecosystem of breaking cards and breaking Ghostwrites and chasing certain things. So you talk about the transformation of the sneaker hobby, but I can see that also with the hybridization in a way of cards and toys. I think that those go hand in hand. Action figures and non-sport cards, which we'll get into in a second here. I think a lot about that, and you're innovating a lot that space. And thank you for that, because it helps like a collectible story. I've talked about this a ton, but like Meelypod hasn't been defined as being just a card store. Now that's our bread and butter, and we do it really well, but we try and enter into all collectible spaces, and it's opened our doors immensely for us at conventions across the country and Comic-Cons or Collector Cons or whatever it is, and building your brand out in a unique way. So we're all in on this. I told you that from the beginning. We're excited to get involved with Ghostwrite and see how that's gonna pan out. So thank you for bringing a new collectible to market. Sure. That's always fun in a lot of ways for me as a shop owner, to bring that to now kids and parents who are like, you talk about Caitlin Clark. There's not a lot of Caitlin Clark cards coming out with Panini. Right. There's 3 releases this year: Select, Origins, and Prism. I think I've heard rumors that she might have an NTRPA. They're not sure if it's going to be in this year's NT or next year. It's going to be a bonus card. But if you just think about that for a second, that's not a lot of releases for the hottest player in all of men's and women's sports. And so I'm excited to see just like this feeding a need, right, for people wanting Caitlin Clark collectibles that are numbered and chased. So looking forward to that. And that's just not her. Angel Reese, there's so many amazing players in the WNBA. So we'll see how that goes. Thinking about collectibles and switching gears, I wanted to, this podcast has been very much educational, also catching people up on stuff. And so I think your exit from Fanatics was a very quiet exit, and I think a lot of people came to me because they knew, you and I had talked a lot, and we were talking about the future of the hobby, and back in 2020, 21, and I think it was 2022 when you left Fanatics. A lot of people don't really know what happened, and people still come up to this day like, Josh Luber's still Fanatics. I'm like, no, he's not. But they don't know that. So would you mind just clearing the air and telling everybody kind of, how the exit happened and why it happened? And I know the answer, but I'd love for you to share that with just our listeners.
Yeah, no, that's fine. And I appreciate that. Well, first of all, it was much more planned than I think anyone realized. When I started StockX, I'd certainly never had anything. I'd created many businesses before, but never anything on that level of success. And I stepped down as CEO of StockX after about 4 years. and I spent another year working there before I left. And it took me about a year to realize that just because I started the company doesn't mean I can't leave. But I also then very quickly realized that I don't want to be running. When I left StockX, there were 1,400 people at the company. That I wanted to go back and create something from scratch, and I had this idea about trading cards, and that evolved to working with Michael Rubin and starting Fanatics Collectibles. But with working with Michael and that company, once we realized how big it was going to be, that if we actually did and were able to acquire the licenses, then I was positive that I was going to leave, and Michael and I knew that from the beginning. What we didn't know when we were starting this, as we were starting Zero Cool concurrently while we were trying to acquire the licenses. Now, had we not been able to acquire the licenses and Zero Cool was all that existed, now that's a much different company. That would have been a more traditional startup. I think we had maybe about 10 people that worked for Zero Cool at the time we acquired the licenses, merged the two together to create Fanatics Collectibles. So I think there's a world where had we not acquired the licenses, I'd still be running Zero Cool, and I'd still be very much active day to day in running a business in the trading card industry. But once that didn't happen, or I mean, frankly, it was obviously a success and a good thing, and these businesses came together. Well, then we acquired Topps and ingested the 800 people that worked at Topps, and then everything else that was going on with the growth of that business. I was right back where I was on a personal level at StockX, which is that I have no interest in running a company that has, 1,500, 2,000 people and everything that goes on with that. I'm a startup guy. Ghostwrite, it's me and 10 other people. I mean, this is the size company that I want to be running and managing. So, it was really just a function of that. And so it took about 6 months for us to find Mike Mahan, and we hired Mike, who's great, to be the new CEO of that company. And then I stayed on to help a little bit in the transition, and then we figured out. If I hadn't had Ghostwrite, which I wanted to create that moment, I probably would have stayed more involved, or just because like I said, I still collect cards and I still buy cards every day. But then once I decided that I wanted to be running Ghostwrite, that's what I'm doing, all day. So it was just a very natural transition of those things happened, and that business will continue on. And I have a good relationship. Michael Rubin was the first investor in Ghostwrite to do that. So, we still have a great relationship, but, it's kind of just the sort of natural evolution of an entrepreneur, and this is the size that I want to run. And, it's good. Those guys can run the big companies.
Shout out to he mentioned Mike Mahan, Jack Caglione. It's like his boy, and he's a Gator baseball player who now plays for the Kansas City Royals. So got to shout out to that. But sports card people, you just heard Josh say it. No drama, natural progression. These things do happen in the real world like this, where people, they can exit and leave and start new things. So thank you for that answer. That was very helpful.
Yeah, and
for sure.
I think it's fascinating too, and I try to read up on stuff or just do different things, and I remember the quote: "Ideas are worthless. Execution is the only thing that matters." I remember you saying that, and I took that to heart, and have memorized it just because I think it's such a great plan. And yeah, I mean, people like you are built to start stuff up, have that execution, and make it work for the betterment of so many other people out there. So if there's some youngsters out there listening and they don't feel like watching Shark Tank or trying to get on there with Mark Cuban, what advice do you have to get something going? What's the willpower, the want that you need in order for something to get going?
Well, I appreciate you finding the quote. I think a lot of people say that in a lot of different ways, and it all comes down to the Steve Jobs. There's a old interview that's been floating around the internet a lot where he talks about this sort of disease that people thinking that the idea, the concept is all of the work, where it's actually the creation of the product of the business, whatever it is. That's where the real work is, and that's true. I mean, we didn't make up anything at StockX. All we did is copy how the stock market works, right? People have been running trading card businesses for a long time. People have been running collectible toy businesses for a long time. It's all in that execution. People ask me a lot for some version of that question: what advice would you give? I actually have sort of two very specific parts of that answer, both of which, frankly, are somewhat mundane, but I think they're very true. The first and most important, particularly for young entrepreneurs, is talk to everybody about everything. people don't be ever worried that someone's going to steal your idea. Like I said, ideas are worthless. It's about finding people to work with and finding employees and business partners and investors. And by talking to everybody about those ideas is how you refine that. So that's the first is talk to everybody, as many people as you can. And then second, which is probably even more cliche, I hesitate to say, just do it under the Nike banner, but is you just have to do something to move stuff forward. It can seem as mundane and basic as possible, but at StockX, I spent 18 months where all I was doing was cleaning data in Excel files, because I knew that I wanted to create a price guide, and I knew that in order to do that, I had to have clean data, and that was just what was in front of me. And I had no idea that anything that would happen when I was doing that, but I knew that sit at home and watch TV? Like, there had to be, I was doing something to move things forward, to put myself in a position to whatever that comes next. And so, like I said, it's pretty basic, but talk to everybody about everything and just do something to move it forward, that you're moving some progress towards towards something in the area that you want to be working in.
Well, you've done a lot, my friend. You've been a trailblazer and a visionary in so many ways. I've seen, you've done AMAs on Reddit, and you've done, Q&As. I don't think you've ever done a rapid fire segment. And so this might be a Josh Luber first. We have something here at the Meelypod Hobby Podcast called the Titan MRI rapid fire segment. So I put some questions together for you. If you're up for it, I'd like to throw some fastballs in there and see how you handle it.
Absolutely. But to be clear, am I answering, are these one-word answers, or am I like...
It's a gray area. So if you'd like, they're less than 30 seconds. Less than 30 seconds answers, okay? That's what we like to hear from it. All right, you ready?
Yep.
I don't want to give you too many hints here. So here we go with Josh Luber on the Titan MRI Meelypod rapid fire segment. All right, first question. True black prism 1 of 1 or a true Topps Chrome superfractor 1 of 1?
Well, that's just the easiest one you're going to give me, right? It's obviously true black prism. That'll change, I think, in the next decade as Fanatics takes over basketball, and we'll see prism go away. But for now, it's absolutely black prisms.
I knew you'd answer that one, but I had to give you a first easy one to start off. All right, next question.
Thank you.
Josh Luber, should Caitlin Clark win MVP this season?
No, she's going to have the rest of her career to win multiple MVPs and everything else, so she's not getting it this year.
Not this year. How about I want you to tell me, would you rather a good hat or a good hoodie?
Oh, a good hoodie. A good hoodie, absolutely. Hats, I mean, a lot of the hats that I wear are like $20 hats that I find at airports. But the hoodies have to be right. Got it.
What's the Luber take on the baseball World Series champion this year? Who do you think it's going to be?
It's Phillies. I'm from Philadelphia. It's going to be the Phillies every year. So,
got it. Most memorable startup for Josh Luber: Servinity or Tech Experts?
Wow, you're going deep in my LinkedIn bio to find all that. Tech Experts. Tech Experts was the first real company. Servinity was the first company we raised money for, first technology company. But Tech Experts, which was essentially Geek Squad before Geek Squad, that I started about a year after I graduated college. And I ran this company out of my bedroom. We made no money, but I would wake up in the middle of the night at 3 a.m. and just work straight through to the morning. I mean, this is when I realized that this is what I wanted to do, that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. The word entrepreneur didn't even exist at the time. I mean, this was 2000 or 2001, I think, when we started this, right? So, basically, more or less pre-internet, certainly pre-social, pre-mobile, pre-technology. And but I was like, this is what I want to be doing with my life, and trying to create businesses and run it. And there was no exit. There nothing happened. It just sort of went away as I moved on. But for sure, that was the start of everything.
It's deep in the archive. So for you guys, gals out there listening, go check out some of the startups. And remember, it's not always the successful startup that creates the next, business venture. There's other things that morph into that, and it grew you in a lot of ways. So thank you for that. All right, on a scale of 1 to 10, I know you don't seem like a nervous guy, but I wonder about this because these talks are pretty big. How nervous were you when you gave your TED talk?
That one was by far the most nervous I'd ever been giving any talk ever. I mean, not even close. There was so much pressure. There was so much work that went into that. I mean, for 6 months, I think I had like 3 meetings a week with the TED people. There was a script person, there was a overall person, and there was a presentation person. And then the day before, there was, I don't know, there was 12 speakers, and we were all there practicing the day before. And then they chose me to go first of everyone. And which is good, because the way better to get it over with rather than have to sit in the audience or sit there and then you're just your stomach's in knots waiting to go. So for like the hour before people came in, because I was first, I was able to sort of be on stage, and I sat on the rug on the stage for like 20 minutes and just trying to sort of visualize it and say, and I mean, I've honestly, I don't think I've ever been that nervous for anything. And now I have no nerves whatsoever. I can go speak in front of whatever crowds and whatever, but that was just the culmination of so many things. And frankly, the timing, that was extraordinary. It was a couple months before starting StockX. So yeah, that was the real deal.
Sounds like a 10 out of 10 maybe. So that was up there.
In terms of my life, I mean, everybody sort of evolves, people who do public speaking, right? Because everyone has a sort of natural fear of public speaking. You get up in front of class when you're young and you feel this way. But, I thought I'd kind of gotten past that. And then you sort of hit another level, because this is big TED. This isn't TEDx. This was like, so it was pretty legit.
All right, switching gears. I know you're a big Ohtani guy. Does he go 50-50 this year?
I figured rather than answering that, I would just pull out this card and I felt like
that's your answer right there. We're talking about 10s. There's a couple 10s on there. There's a PSA 20 red Ohtani Topps or Bowman Chrome rookie card autograph. I can't even look at it, Josh. That's too filthy.
I know. This was I've sold off a bunch of them, but this one I'm holding for a while. So
even a color match too to that. It just rubs it in there.
Yeah, it's by the way, real quick, the story of this was I bought this from a guy in Hawaii, and there was a guy who introduced me to this guy to buy it in Hawaii, and I won't tell anyone names, but everybody was pretty nervous about this deal. And so the guy who introduced us offered to fly to Hawaii to get it. So I paid for his ticket. I paid for him to stay in Hawaii for a couple of days and hang out with the other guy. So the whole story of how this thing came together, and this was, during the run up. I mean, I'm very lucky for what I paid for this, but it was obviously still a lot of money. And so literally a friend of mine flew to Hawaii for me to buy it and then come back, and I paid for his vacation in Hawaii. So
that's
baby.
I mean, he did. I mean, that's car people do crazy things, and that's, I mean, at that time. So you have been by the way, on side note, for our hot podcast, you've been the most show and tell for anybody. You've had so many incredible things you've showed us. So
that's way more interesting than just looking at me the whole time. It's like,
Yeah, you got a lot, man. So this goes into that next question too, with some of your shoes. Favorite pair of shoes that you own that you won't wear, and then a favorite pair of shoes that you own that you do wear.
Well, there's no shoes that I won't wear. There's many shoes that I wear very, very infrequently, or only in the exact right moment. So in that category, I'll say the M&M, the Carhartt 4s, which the Jordan 4 Carhartt, which is the M&M collab, that when they first released, there were 10 released on eBay. It sold for $30,000 each. That was given to me by Paul Rosenberg when we did our first deal with M&M. M&M was an investor in StockX in the very beginning. And so Paul gave me that pair. And so obviously I'm never going to sell that. I've worn them maybe a half a dozen times, usually only on stage when I'm speaking. And because they actually look just like sort of black shoes and nothing special. So if you don't know what they are, no one would think about it. So to be like, hey, and explain to the audience why these are $30,000 sneakers, and it sort of becomes a thing. In terms of shoes that I wear, I guess right now, man, there's so many shoes. Right now I'm wearing the LeBron 6s a lot. And I've been picking up a lot of old LeBron 6s, like unbiased plug for StockX. I can have bid sitting there for a shoe that's 15, 20 years old and pick up, old colorways that I've always wanted to have. And so I've been buying a lot of LeBron 6s, wearing a lot of LeBron 6s. There was just a lot of really cool colorways and themes back there. So that's it, LeBron 6.
For you sneakerheads, that's an interesting answer you just got from Josh Luber. All right, two more. These ones I think will be fun. Are any of the mini Lubers, obviously your kids, a collector yet?
They understand this. They understand sneakers a little bit. I'll tell you, my daughter who's 12, 3 years ago we moved to Austin, and I bought her a couple pairs of Yeezys and a couple pairs of Jordans. And she wore a pair of Yeezy, it was like the 450s of these really like funky soles. And she wore them to school and came home crying. And she's like, everyone's making fun of my shoes. These, they're saying that these aren't cool. And I'm like, trust me. I was like, these 9-year-old kids have no idea what they're talking about. So yeah, so and not really. My son loves Legos and collects Legos, and but obviously we try to stay at the water's edge because Legos is a crazy business, and they have completely transformed the way that they create products to collect. And there's really just a sort of impressive transformation of that business into collectibles. And so he's more, building Mario and Nintendo and Minecraft sort of stuff, as opposed to these big ornate, Lego that you see. So he's more the collector than my daughter.
Interesting. We'll have to find some sweet Lego. I have a couple guys in that space that I know. We'll have to have a Lego guy on in the future, because you are right. That's an interesting space. A lot of people have no idea about. Shout out to Denmark. They have like cities of Lego out there, and it's quite interesting, that whole world. All right, Josh. Yeah. Last question in the rapid fire segment. When it's all said and done for Mr. Luber, what is one single word or phrase you want people to associate with Josh Luber?
Oh, man. I guess it's probably something around, this is like sort of cliche, right? But something around authenticity or just, being myself. There's been many times in my career, in my, my life where, it's so cliche, right? But we all grew up in when we were kids in the 80s and 90s, this view of like what a business person's supposed to be, of what sort of what a corporate actor is supposed to be. And the fact that I wear like t-shirts and hoodies and hats and still part of this, it's not not an act. It's like
it's genuine.
Yeah, and and to try to create that environment, I try to create that at StockX for the people that work there and the people that work for me now, that people can just be themselves and not have to worry about sort of standing on pomp and circumstance for it. But I worked at IBM right before StockX, and I remember one of the partners said to me, this sort of the very first week I was there, he said something along the lines of, you can't work here for 5 years, 10 years, and then start wearing jeans and a t-shirt, right? And I was like, good point. So I was wearing like jeans and hoodies there, and then the next week, our practice group leader thought I was the copier guy, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna have to, it's IBM, so it's a little bit different, right? But once you're out of that, sort of be in this world and sort of just be able to be yourself, and obviously the industry, that we're in trading cards, and you see people that are wildly successful, and they look like they're a high school basketball coach, and that's great. And people can be whoever they want to be. So I don't know. It's something around that. I don't know what the exact word is, but that's the concept.
Maybe Josh Luber ... verified.
Okay,
I like it.
You get it.
Not
so
bad.
yeah.
Well, there's a double or triple entendre in there. So
there you go. You got it.
I'm impressed you got up and Philly hasn't burned down after they blew the Monday night game. That city's got to be nuts.
Josh, you're sitting next to a Braves nut over here. I'm a Cardinals guy, but I don't have as much beef as you guys.
I lived in Atlanta for 15 years, so I'm also a sort of closet Braves fan. Obviously, being in the same division, but yeah, I lived there 15 years, including World Series in '95. So
yeah. Awesome.
Well, man, we thank you so much for being with us. We could talk to you for hours. There's a wealth of just knowledge there you've dropped. And for those listeners, please check out Josh. I think Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, you're on all the platforms. Mm-hmm. But Ghostwrite.com, go sign up for an account. I did the other day. It was so easy. Get signed up, get involved with what's going on with the drops.
Great being here and talking to you guys. So thank you very much.
Yeah, man. We'll see you around at some of the events, and good luck with everything. Looking forward to amazing things with Ghostwrite.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Josh.
Thanks.
All right. Well, it's just that motivated me to go find like my Cal Ripken starting lineup or something, just to see if the old collectibles from back in the day are there.
I mean, I have to break it to you. The starting lineups might not be
anything.
Yeah, they're not as cool as Ghostwrite.
No.
Until he makes a Cal Ripken starting lineup, or a Ghostwrite Cal Ripken, then we'll be set.
Yeah.
Yeah. An Iron Man, one. Well, that's cool. It's a great conversation, and for those of you who are listening, I think there's so much in there. I mean, we really even talk about the StockX beginnings and worlds, and at Fanatics, creating Zero Cool. I didn't get a chance to really talk much about the non-sports side, but there's a lot of things that with Josh just throughout the past 5-6 years, innovating the collectible space. So looking forward to seeing how that changes.
Yeah, and that's what it's all about. Just that ever-evolving landscape of what it all is and figuring it out. And he obviously has done it pretty well.
Yeah.
So, all right, we'll take a break. We'll talk about some new wax coming out. Maybe there's something in there like that Shohei.
Maybe.
He showed us that
I don't know about
we can
that
eventually get someday.
That's a big one.
That's a big one. All right, back with more on the Meelypod Hobby Podcast right after this.
Albert, Alberta, I understand you were witnesses to a crash. Can you tell us about the accident? When you're in a crash, it's important to get witness statements immediately after the accident. Whether you're in a car, truck, motorcycle, scooter, or even a golf cart accident, at Meldon Law, we won't back down.
This is Jameel, owner of the Meelypod shop, Gainesville's home for collectibles of all sorts, including every single type of sports cards, whether it be Panini, Topps, Leaf, Upper Deck. We have it. Come on in, get yourself a box, a pack, get yourself some supplies, get into our breaks, get your Pokemon, get your Yu-Gi-Oh! All the other different kinds of TCG products that we carry and shop are always fully in stock. You can find our stuff on our website as well, meelypops.com. That's another way you can interact with the store, or you can just come into the shop. We're located off 39th Avenue by I-75 behind Walgreens and Sonny's. Stop on by. We're open every Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And you can check us out on our social media platforms, Instagram, TikTok, whatnot, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. We'd love to see you. Come on out to the shop, have some fun, be a part of the card community here in Gainesville, and always go Gators.
Well, fantastic stuff there by Josh.
Yeah.
It's every time we do these things and you bring these guys on and they show me cards, I'm like, holy crap.
Otani.
You're just like kind of in awe of it all. But yeah, I mean, really excited about all the new brand stuff, and it gets your head spinning about all the creative things that can be done. I mean, you take that and you make it a golf tee, and golf courses around the country could have that. Or maybe, gosh, if I was still running a golf course, you put my ugly mug on there. And,
there you go.
Do
the
that.
Jeff Cardozo Ghostwrite.
That's right.
Is that's what the next we're pushing for that. We'll pick it. We'll stand outside. We need a Jeff Cardozo and come up with a chant.
Well, speaking of picking it, it's always good to pick some good stuff out of wax.
That's right.
So let's get our wax segment. Again, we are in Coach's podcast room here at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. Again, you can watch us on Facebook, YouTube, so many different platforms from a podcast standpoint, 39 different ones. So encourage you, if you like it, tell your friends about it, and we'll do all those interviews like that and continue to do that. Next week, we've got another fun guy. You see him all the time. Speaking of golf, Michael Collins, the ESPN caddy, who started his life, similar to the story of Josh, and doing all these different things, got your hand in a bunch of stuff. He was a stand-up comedian.
Oh, wow.
And
makes sense.
Eventually evolved into then doing some stuff on Sirius XM in the golf world, and then ESPN liked him, and then he's hanging out at Tiger's house and growing an ugly beard that I've told him to cut a million times.
That thing
and he
is
finally
gnarly.
did, and all those different things. So Michael Collins of ESPN will join us next week. We'll have some fun with him, and he's got, I think, a lot of different unique collectible items too that he's gotten from the golf world. So
yeah, I can only
he'll pick
imagine.
your brain.
Yeah, imagine what he's got, like just the way he talks about Tiger, and
Yeah.
It'll be really interesting. I think that's one thing with this podcast, as we've entered now into our Sweet 16, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is we want to bring guests on that are tied in with the hobby intricately. You saw with Josh, like levels on levels on levels, that you talk about Mike and his his ability, to talk about his relationship to Phil or Tiger or whoever it is, Scotty, whoever it is, like he's there. And so this permeates so much. And I think that's why with this podcast, thank you guys. I've been checking the reviews on Spotify and place. Please give us those reviews. It only helps the podcast if you're listening. But we appreciate all the love and support with that. As we get into wax and we talk about picking, this is a big picking week, not a slim picking week. In the fall, just so people know, we get an overload of releases. You got kind of the culmination of all the sports playing at the same time, and every company puts a lot of stuff out. So just here's a list. I'm going to read through it, and I'll highlight a few. But this week we have 23-24 Impeccable Basketball, 2024 Panini Gold Standard Football, 2024 Panini Select Racing, 2024 Panini Luminance Football, 23-24 UEFA Champions League Merlin Chrome Hobby Soccer, 22-23 Upper Deck Hockey the Cup, which is a massive release for hockey. And then for the non-sports world, a very interesting release by Upper Deck, 2024 Upper Deck Skybox Masterpieces Monsters Edition. So there's a world of stuff this week.
Like Monsters, like the movie?
Yeah, no, not like the movie, not Disney
like
movie.
Like the one-eyed guy?
Yeah, like Scary Monsters. Like it's like a horror set. And it's a very interesting set. I mean, it's funny you bring that one up because I've been thinking about like how is this going to hit market? Is it going to be awesome or is it going to suck? Like I don't know.
But Halloween's coming.
Yeah, so. It was a good timing for him by Upper Deck, but it's a Masterpieces edition, so it's on this real fancy cardstock. It's got unique artists that have designed these cards, and then there's autograph cards. So you're seeing a lot more in that non-sport space where people are really flocking to, and we've done a really good job with that with our breaks and in store. But the big releases that I think about this week, the Impeccable Basketball release is a high-end basketball release. It's Wembanyama. Everyone's it's still a chase, but they put Logo Men's in the Impeccable set. These are going to be, I would say, high 5-figure to 6-figure cards if you hit them, and so that's going to be a massive chase. There's actually another online release that's coming out. I think it's called Prism Deca. So there's a ton of things coming out all at once, but the Impeccable Basketball is one that speaks to me. The Monsters is very interesting. The Cup Hockey, which is kind of the high-end, the highest of end hockey product that comes out. Now, Upper Deck is behind on things, so that is a 22/23 release. Wow. So it's last season, so you're not going to get 23-24 with everybody's favorite Connor Bedard rookie stuff. But it is a big chase. There's a lot of really nice cards in it. Merlin Soccer, another set that people go nuts over. But I'm looking forward to the 2024 football releases. So you got Luminance, which comes out Friday, and Gold Standard, which comes out on Wednesday. Gold Standard, they come in these gold bars, and they're the first, like I would consider, nice release of football products and putting them in their NFL jerseys. So Caleb Williams, Jane Daniels, all these guys that are watching right now and kind of thinking about how are they gonna get better? Yeah, what's gonna happen with the season, right? I mean, Caleb's 1-1. Daniels, they won, right? The Giants choked or something, in their game. It was a drop pass by Neighbors, but there's another guy. Neighbors will have his cards in it as well. So these releases with football, we'll see how that goes because it gauges a lot of the rest of the season. It gauges a lot of that price point. So make sure you check out meelypops.com. We always have some of the lowest prices across the country on wax. We ship stuff out to people all the time. So if you want to get into some rips and get some good pickings, like you said, this is a week for some really cool releases.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. Well, awesome stuff.
Yeah, man.
We'll see if these college teams around this state can get any better this weekend, and the pro teams. We'll see what happens down in Miami with Tua. But your Bucks 2-0. So
that's right, baby. Baker and Mike, the old men repping. Jeff's got his fancy shoes here today, so we got to make sure that all you guys putting offers in the comments. Jeff's gonna go there and look through it. So he's got Christmas list coming up, I'm sure, for the kids and family. Right. So
take care of it.
Yeah. But no, that was cool that you brought these out today. I think that just kind of shows we have a guest on where we talk so much about cards, but you have this.
There's so many things.
Yeah, and so unique.
And I think that's what's cool about being here at the University of Florida. You see all these football guys, or certainly the basketball team, which I know we'll try to have Todd Golden on at some point, and I'm sure he's
coming. Yeah.
He'll talk some shoes because these are specifically made for Florida stuff, and it's pretty special to get at least access to these over the years and have these guys rep it. It's always fun.
Yeah, the world of collectibles is awesome. It's an amazing thing. I always tell people too, it's not cards. There are so many things to get involved in the hobby. It's a great thing to do with family. When I go to these events, it's always families at events. You know what I mean? We have a big event. I didn't even talk about it because there's so much going on. This weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, our team's going to Atlanta. It's called Collecticon. It's one of the premier events for not just sports, but really TCG.
Okay.
And I think at this event, Steve Aoki is the musical guest. So if you can picture this, you got a Comic-Con-like experience, people dressed up, that kind of crowd. You got sports card people, and then you have a stage where the Pokemon theme song guy comes on every time and sings. On top of that, Steve Aoki will be there doing a performance, throwing his cake at people. It is literally chaos at a show, but it's the first time they've done it in Atlanta.
Wow.
And so I'm really excited about this because it's close to us. It's something that we can represent well. And so we'll be there in Atlanta. I'll have a lot to report back to you from that as well.
Well, enjoy it. Have fun, and can't wait to hear all about it. All right, that's going to do it for another edition of the Meelypod Hobby Podcast. Sweet 16 is in the books, and we appreciate you tuning in here from Spurrier's Gridiron Grill.
Thank you for joining us. We will see you next Thursday at noon.